I think it would be really stressful for American evangelical Christians if we had, say, a Republican candidate with the right policies, but an abysmal character, versus a Democratic nominee with the wrong policies, but a sterling character. But that is not our situation. And so it's exactly as you summarized there, and as I tried to argue earlier, I think the character issues largely cancel themselves out. I think with these two, we're dealing with two men who I think neither of which belongs in the Oval Office, but one of them will be. So I have to think, well, who will be the Secretary of Defense in such an administration? What will be the legislative, priority in such an administration? What will be their reach and administration of the administrative state, which in the United States is increasingly threatening? What will they do in terms of executive orders? Who's going to be in the room when these big decisions are made? I think those are the cogent questions. And that again, I don't think there's any mystery here. So let me just say, if I could speak to Australians and to Christians elsewhere, I would say, look, the only question is how many Republicans turn out to vote, how many Democrats turn out to vote, and then what happens with some marginal third-party candidates? Because otherwise, this election is already basically over. It's just a question of a few swing districts and what may be described as some swing states. But even then, it comes down to some very small mathematical issues. This isn't going to be, unless something happens, this isn't going to be a 60-40 election. I don't think it's going to be a 55-45 election. Joe Biden won some states, by 10 and 12,000 votes out of hundreds of thousands cast. And I think it's going to be that way in 2024. So it's going to be a matter, again, of that particular day and in that particular vote, who shows up and who doesn't.
That's an interesting question. As I touched on earlier, I live in a country where the vote has been compulsory since the 1920s. And you don't. And I hear people say, I couldn't vote for either, so I won't vote, which seems to me actually in the end to be a wrong call. I think we have a responsibility one way or another, even if it is simply voting for the lesser of two troublesome candidates.
Yes, I am Burkean, I would say, in many ways. Going back to Edmund Burke, key figure in the conservative frame of mind and in the British Parliament. And so, the question of the vote was very much a part of the British Parliament's discussion at the time in the 18th and, of course, in the 19th century. Who should be, to the franchise should be extended, how far, et cetera. And I like some of those British parliamentary debates. I'm an Anglophile, and it shows. Because I think the big question is, do you want people who have no idea what they're doing voting, or do you want a system in which those who are most politically interested vote? And I'll say, I think I'm in the second category. So I'll just argue with you here for a moment. I think I want those who are most politically interested to vote. I want to get more people interested, but I don't want people voting who have no idea what they're doing. And so I like the old, British, Tory policy, the Conservative Party policy, which is want the people who have a stake voting.